back in the KNOVA podcast with our Brazilian Jiu Jitsu student of the month, Sean Dacey.
Yep.
That's a good name. That sounds like one of those famous names, like Matt Damon, Don Draper,
It's-
Sean Dacey.
It's funny. As a kid, it used to drive me nuts because kids would call me Scene because I didn't supposed to spell it right, or Daisy, and you don't meet anybody named Dacey. So it's glad to hear somebody compliment.
There's a Sean that comes to the night class, and I'm so used to. I had a roommate, Sean, S-C-A-N, right?
Yeah.
That's how you spell it?
Yeah.
So I got used to always spelling it that way,
Right.
and then I know, phonetically, S-H-A-W-N sounds like that's how you should spell it, but
The good
I
Irish
got
way
used
is
to
my
spelling
way.
the other, so I always keep
Yeah.
spelling his name wrong all the time. And
Good.
anyway, but yeah, so you got a celebrity name and a new purple belt, if I recall.
I did. So I got promoted to purple belt back in February of 2020. So right before COVID and everything kind of blew up. So I kind of joke, I'm like the fakest purple belt in the world.
I don't know if that's a thing you can fake.
No, I got it, and then within a few weeks, it was all done. And for some outside circumstances, I really wasn't able to train at all for essentially an entire year. So
Okay, so no, yeah. I mean, you're fake purple belt in the same way that I'm fake white belt. I'm
There you go.
below white belt.
Well, Sean, for those of us who aren't familiar
Yep.
with any kind of martial arts or jiu-jitsu
Sure.
specifically, can you talk about what it takes to get promoted to a new belt?
yeah, my experience was so if you're unaware, a purple belt is kind of right in the middle of your progression along the way to kind of the pie in the sky goal of someday being a black belt. You start as a white belt, and that's kind of knowing absolutely nothing, especially right at the beginning. You'll find, Matt, I'm sure you're aware, it's frustrating, because especially with some of the higher belts, I'm a bigger guy, kind of like Matt, and even being bigger, it doesn't really help you when you're working with somebody that really knows what they're doing. If anything, it can harm you because you end up thinking you can use your muscle and get your way out of things when you really can't, and you just end up expending unnecessary energy. Once you kind of have an understanding of some of the basic movements, how to escape especially, how to make sure you're not in real bad positions all the time, they start moving it into the world of a blue belt.
Okay.
And that's when you really start learning how to kind of form your own game, if you will, but essentially your style of jiu-jitsu. And that's kind of where I'm at now, learning how to use, not just the entry-level fundamentals, but as well as like my body type to my advantage, which it's fun, and it's all part of the journey.
That's great. Awesome.
I always thought the purple belts were like anyone who has a purple belt is now surpassed the level of me having any chance whatsoever to use my strength or very limited skill. Like there's some blue belts where I'm like, all right, I can at least not let this person crush me if I'm, or my size will win out a little bit here. Not with all the blue belts, trust me.
Yep.
But then once they're purple, it's like game over. They can do whatever they want with me, realistically.
Yeah, it's funny when I started, the guys that were purple and above, that was just a whole nother world,
That's what it
and you
feels like
just
for
look
me.
at them and you're like, how do they do that? They make it seem effortless. They're able to just get to a position that they want one way or another. And they, once you really get to the higher belts, the black belts especially, they don't even really care what position they're in. They'll.
It's a game. It's just them playing the game. Doing some reps.
Yep.
Yeah. So how did you get into jiu-jitsu? What started it for you, or what intrigued you about it?
So I've been an athlete my whole life. Lacrosse was my game. I played it all through college. I actually coached a varsity team here locally for a few years. And I had played men's leagues for years and years after that. Finally, there was one night just playing in a local men's league, and there was a bunch of kids who came in that had just finished at Penn State, and they had just finished a Division I season, and they wiped the floor with me. And I kind of realized afterwards, I was like, they probably should. They just finished playing a Division I season. I pick up a stick once a week and really don't put any effort into it. and it was like, what am I doing? I need to find something new. Being in shape was always part of my life. Being active, I needed to find something new. And did just some research online. I had a friend that used to train here a long time ago. Here, it was an old iteration of KNOVA, and I gave it a shot. Just kind of walked in blind. Mm-hmm. The first few weeks were tough. I mean, it's. I remember coming home.
I'm gonna get that light.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I ended up coming home the first day. My wife was like, "How was it?" I was like, "It's terrible. It's no fun."
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. But honestly, being at this gym, within a matter of minutes, some of the upper belts recognized that I was somebody that had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
And they, were constantly willing to help me, kind of take me off to the side and show me, all right, you're going to be in these real bad positions a lot. And I'm probably like everybody that walks in here. I had an ego like, I'll be all right. I'll figure it out. I've always figured everything out. And you realize real quick you're not. And it was something that was totally new for me. You realize how important I think it is to be a beginner at a lot of different things throughout your life, not just physically, but mentally as well. It doesn't allow you to get complacent in the same old routine, try something new. And here I am, 5 years later or so, and it feels new every day, so that's awesome. That's a great thing for you.
Is there anyone in the program that's helped you the most?
There's an endless list, from Big J, Jason Playstead, who is kind of the owner of the gym. He's really set up this kind of culture here that allows for, people who are just starting out to feel comfortable. But I mean, that list is endless. Kevin Wu, Rick Cardo, all these upper belts, Torin, who, you look at some of these guys like, how do you ever get to the point where they're at? Skylar Whitney's been a guy who, does a ton for you. Any question you have, might be quiet mannered, but, they're all very willing to help out. And, as a result, it makes being a new beginner, you feel okay, even as you're getting your butt kicked out there.
Yeah.
You feel all right about it.
You were even one of the people that was helpful to me when I first started rolling back in your lowly blue belt days.
Right.
Not now.
Right.
No. Trust me, there was no shot of me overwhelming Sean back in the day when he was a blue belt. So even though I said maybe blue belt sometimes I have a chance, it wasn't the case then. But I kept doing this thing where I was always on one knee, which you soon find out is not a good idea. So probably 6 or 7 times in a row, Sean just swept me and flopped me over. And finally I go, dude, how are you doing that to me so easily every time? Because I was like trying not to let it happen. He'd be like, oh, every time you go to one knee, it's easy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never going to one knee again, ever in Jiu Jitsu. And I swear I probably haven't.
Right.
But, and it's like you realize when you first start, and like you were saying, I felt like it seemed so overwhelming. But when you get in there, like no one, it's kind of similar in CrossFit, I guess, but no one really is trying to beat you up. If you ask a question, someone will have an answer that's 100%. Just trying to help you. And obviously then we have some really great instructors in Jiu Jitsu, but it's cool. Yeah, so if Sean Dacey did nothing, he taught me not to stand on one knee in Jiu Jitsu.
No, and all the guys, even to this day, the upper belts, they're always willing to help. I would say that's my favorite thing about this place is, people are able to almost check their egos at the door. And even if you're not able to, you're going to find out real quick. You're going to lose it anyway because, that you see people walk in and they've got an ego. They're here. They think they're big and burly and are going to put it on somebody. And then, they find out real fast that's just not how jiu-jitsu works.
I couldn't imagine starting jiu-jitsu with that mindset. That was going to be a route. I was like, guys, I know I lift heavy weights. Like, I'm not one of those people. Can we just show me what to do? And Skylar was one of the first people to roll. And he's like, here, come on in. We'll show you. And I was like, all right, but really, I don't think I'm good at this. Like, I know I'm not going to. Please don't. And then no one ever, picked me up.
And you'll find out quick that even as a white belt or blue belt against somebody like Skylar, I thought, oh man, I'm getting good space. I'm sneaking in. And then as you progress, you actually find out there's many, many more layers that those guys have, and they're really just letting you work. And it's, so as soon as you might think, oh, I'm getting the hang of this, you're not. It's,
I was just thinking it must take a long time to understand not only like where you are in space, but then also cues about where the other person is in space.
Yep.
And like you were saying, like, oh, anytime Matt goes on one knee, I'm able to like take you down really quick.
Yep.
Just getting used to like understanding if they do that with their body, I can swoop in and do this other thing.
Yep, and you have to pair that with feel, right? So, I might, having taken a year off due to COVID, I may know positions that like, all right, I might be able to sweep somebody or put myself in a good position, but you have to understand the feel of their weight and that, taking a year off, I'm still getting it back even today. I'll try and sweep somebody or, get a foot loose for an escape, and it feels like you run into a brick wall because either their weight wasn't in the spot it needed to be, and as a result, something that should work easily doesn't. And, that kind of combination of physical and mental is a really cool thing about Jiu Jitsu, as I'm sure it is with CrossFit or anything else, right? It's a mental and a physical game.
Yeah, sometimes people develop faster in the mental game than they do physically. Sometimes people physically got everything they need, but mentally struggling a bit with like just the mentality they approach the workout with. Yeah, of course. That's a great. I think you mentioned some of it. Like, it is intimidating when you come into jiu-jitsu, and it's like if you get over that "I'm not scared" feeling or that anxiety of it, it's just another activity.
It is,
and it's like, okay, how can I get better? What's the little thing to do? I think that's the common things I've found in CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu to be similar is if I can just focus on one thing to try to get better at, the rest of the big scheme doesn't matter right now. Just get better at being on your side. Or get better at squatting low or whatever the thing is. Yeah.
It's actually what I tell, some of the white belts that come in, and you can kind of see it in their eyes. They're overwhelmed as, somebody might be giving instructions on a technique for a submission, and they quickly find out when you start sparring, they're not going to be in that position for a long time to actually do that technique. And it's important for those folks to remember, learn one thing, have one thing in your mind. All right, this is where, I might be able to see some progress. This is something I can focus on, whether it's like Matt said, just getting to your side, which is, one of the very fundamental things that Jason Playstead says at the very beginning when you start training. And here I am 5 years later, and I still catch myself not doing it, getting lazy, landing on the ground with my back down, and all of a sudden, Torin has advanced further as I'm just laying there, and then you're in a really bad spot.
There are a lot of times where I have no idea what the F I'm doing, but I just go, get to my side, to be on the side, and I'm like, elbows in, chin down, on my side. So you said, when you become a blue belt, you can start to model your game and kind of develop your own. How would you describe your own game? What would,
Well, I don't know if it shows in the chair here, but I'm a tall guy. It's one of those things that's served me well in a lot of athletic endeavors. But just like anything else, it also works against you sometimes. Growing up, I always wished I was thicker. I'm a lean guy. But you get in here and you realize that every different body type, every different level of flexibility, strength has both positives and negatives. Kevin Wu, who's a black belt here, is, he's a smaller individual, but he feels like he weighs 800 pounds, and, his shorter legs make a lot of the things I like to do really difficult because they're just not in the places that I would expect him to be, and he can use that against me versus me, who has real long legs. I'm able to use those in a lot of situations to my advantage. Which is one of the great things about jiu-jitsu is there's kind of an endless stream of learning that results from your body type, and I might try and do something that Kevin's able to do, and it's just never going to work for me. And Kevin could try and do something that I do a lot of, and it's never going to work for him.
I've never thought about that. Yeah, so your jiu-jitsu game it could be completely modeled based on your own anatomy.
Yep.
Yeah. That makes
especially
sense,
at my level, guys, because I'm not advanced enough to know and be comfortable in all spots. So using my length and my body type in those spots as I'm learning how to adapt my game where my height and length would work against me. That's going to take a lot longer. So it's, and I think that's the case for everybody. There's real big guys who are able to use their size to really apply pressure, and there's small guys. There's a gentleman that used to train here named Guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a little Brazilian guy who could move, faster than I could.
He could climb around you like a spider.
Yeah, and it was really maddening sometimes because he was where you wanted him to be, and within a split second he was gone and had.
Yeah, I remember rolling with Guy a couple of times where he was so light to me.
Right.
But literally, I could just stand up with him hanging on my body. He would just climb around my torso and go down to my ankle and pull me back to the ground. And I was what is happening?
Right.
I am so much stronger, yet so much weaker at the same time.
Yeah.
That was wild. Yeah. Have you found, you use jiu-jitsu or principles of jiu-jitsu outside of the?
Yeah, it goes back to being a beginner. One of the biggest things you learn in jiu-jitsu is how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, because you're going to be there a lot, even now. You're in bad situations a lot, and, kind of settling your brain. I'm not much of, I don't know much about meditation, but I think that's a lot about what it kind of teaches you is how to relax your brain, how to, turn your attention inwards. And honestly, on the mats, it's pretty similar because you're going to have a 210-pound beast trying to choke you, and you need to keep your head about you.
I think you just called me a beast.
Yeah,
I weigh about 210.
There you go. Right, I had you in mind.
All right.
There you go.
And you've got to be able to turn your attention and focus inwards and get back to the fundamentals of things you've learned and trained. And it also is a incredible stress reliever. Because I feel like in the world today where, you're always focused on all these things, and turning the outside world off is an increasingly difficult thing to do. I can tell you from experience, when you're training on the mats, it's pretty hard to remember, what meeting you may have tomorrow at 7:30 while, Jason Playstead is putting his weight down on you, and it feels like there's a steamroller, coming over your entire body, and you're just hoping to gasp for a little bit of air. And
it allows you to be in the moment.
Yeah, exactly, which is an important thing these days, because we don't live in the moment anymore.
Mm-hmm. That is a good perspective, too. Darren said something very similar, about the staying calm in stressful situations. That he's still a police officer or just retired?
Yeah, I know he's.
I can't remember if you said.
I think he retired from the force.
Okay, yeah. So, or when he was, yeah. But he was saying, especially in that job, a lot of times you just had to stay calm and no pandemonium around you. And I think that's probably a skill in any area of life. I mean, having a fight with your spouse, and it's all right, you don't want to say things that are unnecessary. And it's you almost have to separate the emotion from your actions. And
same at work. The last year, I think for pretty much anybody, it's been a stressful, long year, and there have been times the world seemed upside down, and learning how to turn emotions and your thoughts inwards and deal with them yourself versus losing it with other people is
it's powerful.
I think we need more of that out there.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I found in CrossFit too, people that are not in the right mindset, it can go one of two ways. People will use the training as a vent and almost postpone dealing with their stuff. But at least in a moment they have some freedom. Or people use it as a developmental tool to kind of overcome and work themselves through whatever emotional or personal struggles they might be having. And it's exactly like you're saying. We need more of that. And sometimes jiu-jitsu just looks like this really tough martial arts where it's ironic. You could look in there, you see some big, strong, tough guys. You see Russ, and you're like, holy shit,
right.
the guy looks like a Terminator.
Right.
But then
yeah, it doesn't.
Russ, I'm coming for you at noon
right.
today. You better, if you're listening, no. But then you see people that they just look like someone's dad on the street. You might walk into them at a gas station unassumingly.
Yeah.
And I kind of forgot where I was going with this point, but the point is, like, everyone able to work through that stuff. I don't know. I lost track of my point. I had a point, and then I started thinking about rolling with Russ today, and I'm like, oh man, Russ,
scary. No,
my elbows are already sore.
I got a shiver down my spine as soon as you started talking about.
But like, what were we saying?
But the variety of people in there is, you're 100% right. I mean, myself, I'm a 40-year-old dad who, I own a business. A lot going on and stuff. And there's we had right before COVID, we had a former wrestler who was like an All-American in there, who was 22, and, had a level of athleticism that is long gone for me. It's
sure.
And it's fun to see different styles like that, and Kevin Wu, I'm not exactly how old he is, but he's older than me, so we joke with him about it, but man, he can tie up in a pretzel in a matter of seconds. And I
generally have a certain amount of fear about rolling with Kevin.
Right.
He's so sneaky good. Like, you don't even see it coming.
No.
You're just like, let me grab this collar. All of a sudden I'm submitted.
You would see that guy walking down the street, and he wouldn't come across as an absolute killer.
Pity the fool. I pity the fool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Wow. Well, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would especially urge anybody that is thinking of giving it a shot. The thing here at KNOVA that I stress the most is the general inclusive culture. I see it in CrossFit. You guys have people from all walks of life that come in here, and it's a really welcoming place. I know from experience, starting Jiu-Jitsu is a really intimidating thing. It's not playing golf, it's scary when you walk in and you see on the mats, a guy like Russ who, is a world renowned, jiu-jitsu practitioner. It's intimidating when you're a new guy and you see him choking somebody else on the mats, but you quickly realize that everybody here is genuinely here to help you. It is one of the things I almost kind of take pride in. It was one of my favorite things to ever happen to me training here. Was the first time, it was actually Brian Rowlands, who's moved and gone, former black belt here, but he's like, hey, I got to run. Could you cover a class for me? And it's like, whoa. Like, that guy wants me to teach people stuff. And like, it's, and it's one of those moments you almost kind of been waiting for, like, because you've been given all this help from upper belts, and you realize, like, oh, that's like the ultimate compliment, is to learn how to then pass that on to somebody else that starts. Because especially as you get into as an upper belt, you look for new people to train with, and the more people that stop by and give it a shot, and give it more than I know many gyms offer like a free week trial to try jiu-jitsu, and a week really isn't long enough, because that week is terrible.
Yeah, drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, it's awful, right? And give it 6 months, and then after 6 months, give it another year, and then you really start to appreciate.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you can find in a week, though, because I tell this some of the new people that drop in, I want to try CrossFit,
right? And
they maybe have one good class or whatever, but like you said, there's sometimes things are so complicated. You can't learn them in a week. You can't learn them in a day. But I'm always like, come a bunch of times. If you like the classes, the environment, what we're doing, like, you'll get better at the movements. You'll figure that stuff out later. But if it's trying to get people to come in and enjoy, find what the community is about, find how we operate as people, and the energy we create in the classroom. You'll learn the moves down the road in your own time. But sometimes it's more the community, the people you're around, the energy and the environment. And if you like that, this will be the place for you.
And I would guess that learning, even CrossFit, never stops. I would guess you are still working
every time you think you're good at something, you find out there's a harder way to do it.
Right,
so.
Right. I back in the day, I used to, playing the crowd, learn how to squat and stuff, and it's something you're always working on it. As soon as you start getting to failure, boy, things thought you knew how to do, all of a sudden muscles that you thought you could activate, you can't.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to hurt your back.
It's just a microcosm of life. Life's like that. There's different stages, different phases of life. You're always trying to figure it out, and then something new comes along,
and
your life changes, your body changes, your home changes, your kids get older, Right. So it's like you're just always learning. If you can adopt that, the greatest ability is the ability to learn.
Yep.
Yeah, if you can get that. Well, thank you, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
I think you did some awesome insights.
I especially thank guys like you and Jay and Kevin Sant, everybody who did a great job getting the gym back up and running after what was, I can only imagine, a challenging world in the fitness industry, especially.
Man. It was a special time.
I admire it because you folks do it because you love it, and it really shows in the community that's here.
Well, yeah, and I know if Jason or Kevin or anyone, our coaches, both in the Jiu-Jitsu and the CrossFit side, we do it, and we love doing it because of the people that come in, like yourself, that put in the work to make yourself better. And like we've talked about this in other podcasts and stuff, it feels good to help people feel good. So continue, please, doing the work you're doing, sharing what you've experienced and learned with other people, making those new people that come in welcome. Because as you kind of know, it starts off as like, let me try this thing, and turns into like one of the best aspects of life. And, not only do you get a whole bunch of health and physical benefits, but just the community aspect is important too. So obviously you were student of the month because you're doing something right. I asked Jason, I said, hey, I want to start doing, member of the month for all the jiu-jitsu. I don't oversee that. Who would you guys recommend? So he talked to some of the coaches, and then your name came up. So next month we'll have a new one.
It's been a pleasure being here, and it's a great community, and I strongly urge anybody that wants to give it a shot and give it an honest chance.
Amazing, awesome, thank you.
Great.
All right, that is a wrap.
Thanks, guys.